Welcome to Arakka Media because the truth matters. Today, we are going to have an interview with a young researcher, Miss Kim from University of North Carolina, Charlotte, about the situations in Arakan State where the Arakan Army is actively fighting and gaining against the Myanmar military called Tatmadaw. Hi, Ms. Kim. Welcome to Arakan Media. We are very glad that you are here.
Hi, yes, thank you for having me.
Yes. As far as you know, the Arakan Army and the Myanmar military fighting, and Myanmar military is heavily losing in Arakan State, and almost all Arakan State is going to be occupied by and then controlled by Arakan Army. And currently, they are trying to gain the full control of a town called Maungdaw and Butidang and Maungdaw, especially the Maungdaw, which is the border of Bangladesh and Myanmar. And as far as those situations, what do you know about those?
Okay, so I know a few things. I know of the 1027 operation that they have been holding for nearly a year, and it is their biggest effort to take control of Arakan as a whole. And they are trying to control those last few towns to get full control of the area, because the Myanmar military in the military junta is losing this battle. And so I know that that's going on, and I know that those are the last places that they need to take control of to essentially win their area.
Right. In that area, as you know, that there were Rakhine, the Buddhists, and also the Muslims people living there. And then as far as those two communities, and how do you think that, and how do you learn about the Arakan Army handling of the people, the citizens over there?
Yeah, it's essentially a shared area, so all the citizens live together, albeit, maybe in their own communities, but the Arakan Army kind of treats them all the same. All of the citizens are warned ahead of time before they participate in war and violence. So they go around and they let the citizens know that they probably need to flee in order to stay safe.
Right. We can see that we've been seeing these other things that the whole Burma, and including Arakan, and then mostly in Arakan State now, that the Arakan Army that won against the people, and people has to leave, or the town that they were going to have against the Myanmar Army, because Myanmar Army basically come and bombs all the area that they lost, so that and then they try to target and retaliate on the citizens, so that they have to leave the town and city, and most of the town and cities were pretty much flattened, and then deserted now. But it's amazing that people were willing to do that. They leave the town, and then they follow the orders of the guided the directions of the Arakan Army, mostly help them fight, because they know that in the end they have to accept the fighting of that military dictatorships. It's the only way that they fight against them. So that yes, but in the area that the Maungdaw, there were some problem created, and what it is there were accusations coming out of Arakan Army not really treating those citizens how you call that, they've been being abused, or they've been killed, or they've been chased out of their homes and stuff like that. So those things are coming out, and then on those accusations and stuff, what do you kind of think of those, or what do you learn of those?
Well, it is true that they must flee their homes, to stay safe, but the fact that they're being killed by both sides is essentially being manipulated by the Myanmar military, because they are being recruited and they're being weaponized. I mean, the Muslim people, of course, by the Myanmar military, and being told to fight against the Arakan army in order to play this big sort of manipulation tactic, and then shout to the rest of the world internationally that the Muslim people are, being killed by the Arakan army despite this sort of tactic. And they're being weaponized without any training and used as human shields currently, which the AA really doesn't have control over their own actions in that matter, unfortunately.
Right. And then we know that all the communication pretty much is like lost or cut
Yep.
out with Myanmar army and all that too. So
Right.
that quite a bit of news and information. What do you think of those? Like, and then there were a lot of like people, and I mean, they accusing people like was saying like almost exact numbers, and like they, even though they were outside and then not being on the ground and stuff too. On those things, what do you think of those accusations like made by those people and stuff that what's your take on this?
Well, the reality is that there are no true numbers to any of these right now. Like you said, all of the internet has been cut off, all communications have been destroyed by the Myanmar military. So there is no real number unless, they were to go out and tell the international world themselves a number, and that might very well be skewed.
Right. And the Arakan Army, not long ago, also issue and then inviting the international community to come into the area and then to account for those by the first-hand account and eyewitness it and stuff. So on those, what do you think of it?
I think that is one of those things that it should be done. People need to witness the horrors that are going on, the atrocities that the Myanmar army is committing, because if they aren't invited in this way, as dangerous as it is, it's quite necessary to show how manipulative the Myanmar military is trying to be.
Right. And also international community should, think that they should go in there and try to get the real information in there.
Right.
And another thing is there were like interviews, that the so-called activists, a couple of those been like doing interview around, and they were like actively accusing the Arakan army is like doing the same as the Myanmar army that done the genocides on them and stuff. So on those accusations, why do you think that they'd be doing like that?
Well, if you're asking me why that they might be doing that, it's because they are for profit most of the time. And in that sense, being an activist is their job. And especially if they are for a certain cause or a certain, there's something that they need to get a profit for, whether it's for them or for their cause, stirring the pot and creating this sort of turmoil and tension between certain communities that, would otherwise be unbiased towards each other, helps them gain more money and, for their cause and for themselves, really, for their livelihood.
I see. Yeah, in that case, the doing those like undermining, the defaming, and spreading those misinformation against Arakan army. What do you think will affect on the whole revolutions of like Myanmar people against these military dictators that they were trying to fight and then democratizing the country?
I think this is a terrible thing because it is, kind of undermining the entire revolution as a whole for one issue that isn't even quite true. You don't have any evidence. There's no solid kind of anecdotes on what is going on. Everything's being cut off. And in that sense, with the accusations being groundless, kind of no base, no solid, it's undermining the whole revolution, and it's allowing the revolution to lose support and the Myanmar military as a whole to win this war, which they honestly should not be, and they're already losing. So this might be their own tactic and their own manipulation as well.
I see. Thank you. And then can you give me one example that activists and democracy, the people who are fighting for democracy could be really not that innate, do you have any idea and any example or instance of those that you can give it to our audience?
Yes, absolutely. This is not an uncommon thing. Most recently, there was a 75-year-old Chinese man named Shujun Wang, who was an agent for the Chinese government, but was playing under the role of a pro-democracy organization that was based off of Queens, New York. And the trial was, I believe they convicted this man of being a spy and actually working for the Chinese government instead of being, a pro-democratic activists.
Right. Yeah. So do you think that Myanmar government, the Myanmar military could install those kind of elements in the revolutionary side and undermining the revolutions itself too? Is that something that you will worry? And then should the Myanmar people should worry?
Absolutely. Everybody should be worried about this thing, especially in troubling countries like this where there's constant civil war. There's manipulation everywhere and it doesn't kind of stay within the same country. There are very big plays that have to be made to get international recognition, and part of that is activism and being an activist and spreading the word. And it doesn't mean that only one side is going to play. There will be double agents out there, and this 75-year-old Shujun Wang is a perfect example of something that you might think doesn't exist, but it does, and it's a very real issue.
So how about the American people? As an American researcher and student, what do you think of American people should be aware of too in that case like this?
I think in a case like this, it's just like scam calls and, scam emails and phishing sort of deals. It's something that you have to be aware of. It's something that can be generally uncommon, but it is not unheard of, and it is something that you have to be careful of. Information is very hard to come by for a country that has been cut off from communication as a whole. So you have to tread incredibly carefully to make sure that you're getting all of the right information.
Right. Okay. Thank you, Ms. Kim, for coming with us to interview with us and then touch up on these Arakan Army and or the Arakan state and the revolutionary of Burma issue. Thank you, Kim.
Right. Thank you for having me.